Welcome back to The Remote Life. My name is Han Talbot, also known as Han Makes World, and today we'll be chatting with Nienke Nina Keizer. Now based in Austria, Nienke Nina is a marketing strategist, digital storyteller, and podcaster. She founded Aligned Expressions, which is her personal mission and way to help people and companies to show up online with confidence and ease. In this episode, we talk about finding alignment with your marketing for your business, the impact of accountability conversations and spaces for entrepreneurship, and some of the things that people may not know about different platforms in 2024. So grab a coffee, a tea, or something stronger, and let's get started. Nina, welcome back to The Remote Life. How are you?
Thanks for having me here. I'm great. Oh my God, so much has changed. When was the last time we were here? Like a year?
I think the last time you and I had a conversation on The Remote Life literally was a year ago, because I think I was in Cappahica and you were you in the Netherlands at the time?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. But wait, let me disclaimer last time, on the Remote Life, because the last time we had a conversation was like a minute ago and yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, wait, the last time lots has changed, and we literally talk every day, so this is just hilarious. But before we get into more of that, for people who obviously it's been a year since you and I recorded on The Remote Life, tell us about you. What have you been up to? There's been quite a few things you've been up to, so tell us.
Yay! Yeah. So, wow. Okay. So last time I was on Digital Nomads Daily was running, still is the podcast. So that's super cool. But then what has changed is that, I fell madly in love with a guy.
Shout out.
After a massive breakup. So that was super unexpected. So I'm actually still in Europe. So that really changed a lot in my life, but really for the good. Oh my God, I'm so happy with everything that's happened. And then also in terms of work life, wow, so many changes. So last year, I think I was trying to make this very masculine energy driven sort of agency to build funnels and all of that. But this past year has all about finding, rediscovering myself. I think makes sense when you have a big heartbreak or a breakup,
big
or
shift.
maybe a big emotional shift that just shakes everything up. You get in that state. So that happened for me as well, but really beautiful journey. So it's been all about finding that alignment. And in that journey, I've realized that the way I was working with clients was not particularly in alignment. The way I was showing up online was not always in alignment. So it's just been a massive identity shift. So I'm really proud and really grateful and happy also to report that now 365 days later, I feel really good. I feel like I'm more grounded. I grounded within myself. There's love, there's amazing friendships, and beautiful journey. So I'm still building funnels, but it's really focused on aligned marketing. That's also how I call it. I also rebranded my agency. So from Start Digital, it's now Aligned Expressions, which, just when I say it, I'm like,
your face is
it just,
up. Yeah.
it just feels good. And so basically the work now, it's still in marketing, but it's a lot more strategic marketing, content strategies. And it's really focused on finding that alignment first, right? So the aligned expression first in terms of strategy, helping creating the marketing assets. So how to actually do the effort. So whether that is for personal branding or landing pages, website, whatever that marketing expression is going to be. And then we focus on aligned rhythms, which is just minimizing the chaos by adding structures, automations. So it's everything in the funnel building process, but it's more focused on just the things that I love doing. And amazing clients, amazing people I can also work with. So great life. Still challenging sometimes, of course. It's not one happy pink bubble, but it's an aligned bubble.
100%. There's a lot more flow, a lot more ease. And also, you and I have, for context, we've been doing more regular conversations. So what was it, back in October, November, you and I decided we had a one call where we then said, right, hey, should we do more regular check-ins? And then it became more regular conversations. And so we were literally having calls every week. And then now we're obviously voice noting at pretty much every day. And I love it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I had to say, if you're thinking about doing more accountability, for example, it has been so transformative for me. For anyone who's been here since series 1, you'll remember my accountability partner from Tara from before. But as I've always been like a massive champion of accountability partners in general. But it has been so amazing to go on that journey with you since, like, it's been 7-8 months of that essentially at this point. Like, that's wild. Like,
Yeah.
and to see you then not fall in, but I mean like kind of slot into that space for you has been so amazing, because then also I'm getting bits of that too. So just finding that kind of watching you kind of come into your own and take your expertise that you know, but then kind of mold it into this sort of business that is very much you, and very much like you are leading this, not just like here's a blueprint from a business that is how we used to do business. You're doing it from much more of a like heartfelt, much more intuitive led business. And like, this is literally why I wanted to like for us to record, because our calls every week blow my mind, for one. But I have loved us kind of setting our own standards with business in the last year as well. Like,
it's so transformative, because like when you have people, when you go through transformations like this, whether it's personal life, like, I don't know, maybe you're always falling for the wrong guy and you're working on that, or girl, or maybe it's your business in my case, or maybe it's even friendships, like just relationships or family stuff. Like, when you go through these transformations, what often happens is that you go a lot of back and forward in your head. So there's a lot of clutter, like chatter and clutter, and then it gets very overwhelming. You feel kind of lonely. And what for me really helped was that you and I created a safe space, that whatever we were thinking and feeling, whatever those sensations and thoughts were, or even expressions, maybe frustration or whatever that is, it was a safe space to just be and not feeling judged, because it was just something that in the deconditioning process that needs to get out of your system so you can free up space, and then you can attract new stuff. And you and I created that space. And I think actually what I realized, because I'm also talking about this more on social now and also writing about it, is that there's not a lot of safe spaces where you can be this vulnerable. And as solo entrepreneurs or business, like if you have a team or in your solo ship, I don't know, it gets lonely a lot, and that loneliness is overwhelming. So having an accountability partner, talking with people about it, but with the right people, and you and I are in a very similar space in terms of work. So there's a lot of contribution, like those golden nuggets that you just already mentioned, like whatever sometimes I go through, like you might go through that as well later, or you already went through it and you're like, oh yeah, that was happening then, okay. And it's just like these okay, so you can just calm down a little bit, because life is already chaotic enough. And I think that this alignment process can sometimes only happen when it either gets smacked in your face, or you just decide, I'm going to smack it in my own face. But you can't just like sit there and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to create this amazing business and it's going to be aligned because this person did it, so I'm going to do it the same way. That's how I did it and it didn't work. So yeah.
100%. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of gone through the phases in business now where it's very much like, you know, follow this person's blueprint, or, you know, this person did it this way, so everyone must do it this way. But the thing is, I don't know about you, but I found that if I try to be like other people, I also burn out, because I'm not being true to myself. You know, I'm trying to be like somebody else. And then, yeah, especially like for me, I think that some of the most important, some of the best people that I follow and some of the best people in the industry are authentically themselves, and have shaped something for themselves, instead of going, right, I read this book, and I followed this exact recipe that it said.
Yeah, I feel like the whole reason why I called my agency Aligned Expressions is just what you just said. It's because of that. Because what we do often is we follow our internet heroes, so to say, or friends doing something, and we then go deep already in it, but we forget to ask ourselves, wait, do I actually enjoy this? Why am I doing this? Is this going to work for me? Do I want to create 100 of this, 100 episodes, 100 blog posts, 100 newsletters, 100 reels, whatever that is? So what I have really found is that with working with clients so directly, is that oftentimes that question in a meeting would be like, oh yeah, I saw this thing from this person. Yeah, I really should start a podcast as well. Why didn't I do this? And it's so much in this whole one comment. There's so much. You have a lot of bad negative self-talk because you're like, I'm not doing enough, I'm behind, why didn't I do this already, right? So there's one thing, but also it's like you're approaching a concept or a strategy or a tactic that might not fit your business goals, that might not fit your personality, for God's sake, your lifestyle. It's like, and this is that alignment that we don't do because we're in such a rush culture. So what we do is like, bam, bam, we grab, but we're not like, okay, wait, what are we doing? And then we get burned out and frustrated and we don't get the results and we get mad and we think people are lying to us. All we're not doing is just tuning in with ourselves and checking in and be like, is this new podcast gonna be an aligned expression? So that's why the whole name came up. And it was like because of our conversations and my own meditations and reading and and human design. I was like, this is it. I don't care. If you're into podcasting, fine. I will help you build podcasts. But if it's not an aligned expression of you, I won't do it. And I will tell you that is, and this is what that is in entrepreneurship. This is why so many entrepreneurs don't make it. They burn out because their business is not an aligned expression of them. So how are you going to find freedom? It's like more like a caged expression. So I call this internet hero work thing.
I love that term. And it's so funny because
I feel like I should claim that. Like I really feel like, and like you have been going through the process of doing patents and all of that. I want to like claim that. I want to sort of like be like, okay, this is my thing. Because whenever I say that to clients, like, oh, that's like an internet hero mark thing from blah, 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 but I won't call names. They're like, yeah, that's where I saw that. And I was like, okay, makes sense.
What's so funny also is that, so I've been to a few events the last couple of months, and I'll say like, oh, yeah, I started this because of this person. And then people kind of look at you going, oh, that's a bit cringe. But it wasn't back when I started that thing. So I think also we're just in this phase now with entrepreneurship in general, or like maybe it's that you and I just kind of doing things a little bit differently from like what we've been told. Who knows? Maybe it's a mixture of both. But I feel like it's almost even I am kind of like, oh, I feel cringe saying that I was inspired by this person now. That's kind of become a bit of a sort of odd cardboard box. I don't know. Just template to do things.
But inspiration is good. Like you can get inspired. Like get all the inspiration, but be inspired, but don't make decisions and don't take actions before you do the alignment moment. That's it. Like I get inspired all the time, but first alignment, and then I will make a decision and create the actions and take the actions.
I think also one thing that I'm noticing is the fact that obviously the thing from moving from how we've known the hustle space to the sort of alignment space is the two focuses go from scarcity to abundance. And that even in itself has been transformative with everything. Going from the whole, what's it called? The $100 startup concept and whatnot. Going like, right, you've got to spend as little as possible to grow as quickly as possible. Versus actually taking your time, waiting for the answers to come to you, waiting for people to come to you, maybe reach out based off of what feels right. Because so much of entrepreneurship and being a creator and a freelancer and all the rest of it is about following what feels right at the end of the day. Like if we actually admitted that to ourselves. Because again, we're building stuff and nobody necessarily knows our product, our baby, better than us. So it's also, but then focusing on that kind of abundance alignment mindset makes things happen so much quicker and better. That's what I'm finding too. And it's just wild.
Yeah, no, it resonates a lot. And this on itself, it's already alignment, right? Because there's different ways on how you can build a business. There's not one way. And what is important is that you need to know what can work for you. There are people that can tell themselves, and I used to be like this as well, and back in the days this worked, but it doesn't work for me anymore because obviously you get older, your interests shift, your friendships, your community, your location, whatever. So your energy is shifting, right? So you're not the same person like last year. But what some people have is that they think or they feel like I have energy capacity and all of that to go really, really hard for 3 months. Then I want to chill out. But if that works for you, congratulations, then go for it. But if that approach doesn't work for you, and you actually know that already, but you read a book from someone or listen to a podcast or whatever, right? And you're listening to that and you don't do this alignment step, you're going to take that approach over because you perceive it as like, this is the way to do it. But because of the misalignment, so this is why I say it's like internet hero marketing, because there's nothing wrong. These people are not lying to you most of the time, right? But it's all about like most of the time.
I think we're also in that phase now
alignment?
where that some of this stuff's being debunked. That's right. Yeah, that's why I'm also.
That's a whole other episode.
Just
like,
to put that
oh
one
my
out
God.
there. We're also in that debunking.
Yeah. But this is it. So I posted something the other day also as a quick example, right? So I saw a post of someone big in the space that was talking about a specific channel. And then this is what all the results they achieved with this channel. And it was money results, it was subscriber count results, views, blah, 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 blah. And when I read this, I was like, you're insinuating basically that people should start a podcast because it was so focused on that. And then I reading the caption, and it was all about like comment podcast or DM podcast to get my blueprint, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't show, here's something how I did. Ask yourself, does this work? So you might have now, let's say 100 people signed up for this thing. 50 of those, they might even consider they need to do a podcast, right? And then the half of that, so that's 25 people. They're not comfortable podcasting. They don't like doing that. They are, I don't know, traveling. They have kids. They have whatever that is. Those 25 people will struggle big time because it's not an aligned channel. It's not an aligned way of showing up. So their voice becomes cringe, their marketing message, their results don't come. And then they're like, yeah, but she said, no, it's misleading. I find this type of stuff a bit misleading because in this hustle culture, we go so fast and so focused on this result and being so quick. But it's just what you said. Like, we are not trained now to ask ourselves this question. And in what other place are we not trained to ask ourselves the question, how are we feeling? In school. It's like that.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole like roller coaster of society again, how it now is online.
And what's so funny is that I feel so grateful that I came up in the job market, if you will, just before social media really took off. Because for me, I've always generally been able to stay level-headed about these things because I have those basic marketing tools in the back of my brain as well. I forget the fact that at the moment, like, people are trying to tell you to be on TikTok, people are trying to tell you to build on like Substack, people are trying to tell you to keep Instagram going. With all the, and like, you know, we've had all these Google updates, Instagram updates, all the rest of it. Everything's constantly moving, and everyone's flapping and being like, "Oh my God, I've got to like let go of this and sell this and all the rest of it." Again, like, it's another cycle of that. I feel so grateful that at the end of the day, in my mind, I can stay level-headed and be like, right, okay, no, wait, what marketing does my company, my brands, my clients, what marketing do they actually need? That's the biggest thing, because all the while people come up to me going, they used to do this with blogs back in like 2017. Like, Han, I want to start a blog. I've got 3 ideas. Okay, great, good for you. Han, I want to start a podcast. How did you start? Okay, cool. How many ideas have you got? And will you be able to maintain that? Like, what's the point? Oh, well, I want to get free stuff. Like, that's not really a goal, especially now with all the like laws we have. But it's just being mindful again. Also, okay, what's your product offering? Is it solid? Because if you're just focusing on, I've got to get 1 million followers on Instagram, but your offer is not great, then why are you putting that much effort in? Versus, you know, making sure your product offering is solid for your customers, your ideal clients, and then going from there. I think people generally have got a little bit too far away from what is actually a priority and what's actually important.
Yeah, people focus on the how.
Yeah.
But we need to focus on the why first, and also on that goal, right? So this is like what I said in the beginning of the episode. Like, the how are really those marketing expressions. So these assets that we build, right? So that's like, yes, we're going to start that podcast, or we're going to create that personal brand type of content and blah. But it's that strategic part that people are not trained on. So I recently downloaded or got like a course from someone that was also in the marketing space. And it was very interesting is that it was so focused on the how, like how to build a funnel, how to write your email copy, how to do all of these things. And I was like, there's not many exercises here on alignment and on this strategic part. And alignment is strategy. Positioning is strategy. I mean, you and I have very similar conversations about this when we also reflect on client conversations, because it's often that people are like, I need to do this thing. And then we are like, yeah, but why? Like what, like what you just said, right? And that's all strategy stuff. But if you don't have any proper marketing education and your education is solely based on courses from internet heroes, you're not going to get that key ingredient. It's like trying to bake an apple pie without the apples, but you don't realize that the apple pie, the apple part of that word, means that you actually need apples. It's like you don't know. And that sucks, because then you're burning yourself out, your resources, your passion, your energy. Oh, that's cringe.
That's what I was thinking about as well.
And notice that I'm always like making a lot of sounds. Like I usually start the day with
a sound just speaks louder. There was something you touched upon as well in that I was just thinking, because we've obviously been talking about our podcast for literally since we were properly connected in person. And I think at the end, we're coming on such an interesting part of marketing. Like we are and we're not. I feel like there's so many different models that have been around for years. For example, when people say to me, "Oh, influencer marketing is so new," I'm like, no, it's not. The whole concept of an influencer has been around for well over hundreds of years, really. How we know it has been around for 100 years at least, if you look at the Oscars, Audrey Hepburn and all the rest of it. But this is what I mean by, like, I'm so grateful that I came up in the space before social media really kind of got us in a chokehold as a society, that there are still so many different marketing tools, I think, that are on the base level and the foundation of every successful business. But in my opinion, I think there's a kind of bit maybe that's changing. Do you think there's anything in your mind that you think people aren't quite, apart from what we've obviously talked about already, would you say there's anything that people aren't quite aware of, or like if you think there's anything that's changed specifically that people kind of need to stop focusing on so much, aside from the algorithm?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things there to say, but I think what the most helpful thing is that when we used to do marketing, there were not so many platforms available, and some of these platforms needed an expert to execute it, right? So the sort of basics when you start a business is like a habit, right? You start a business or your passion project, you get your domain, you create a website somewhere. You usually need an expert for that. And then you create your 3 or 4 handles, because we had Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or something. Like that was sort of like first step. But now, so many years later, what has changed is that, first of all, there are so many more channels out there. Like really a lot of channels, because the marketing space is growing. The way marketing has been evolving is that there's more platforms, and then inside these platforms there are more channels. So let's unpack Instagram for a moment here. So Instagram is a platform, but inside of that there is stories is a channel, feed is a channel, right? There's DM, because you can send messages, and automate part of that is a channel. So this tree was very small, and boo is really big right now. And then the second part is that before, like I said, we need experts to execute on very specific things. We are in this amazing space right now that there is so much information so easily available, that also like soft skills, you can learn stuff yourself quite quickly. Like if you spend 1 month focusing on how to build websites through a front-end builder, you can build websites. Like probably you can build your first website within 2 weeks. The tutorial videos, the how-tos, it's everywhere. And this means for everything, for all the channels, is that we think that we need to be on all these channels. And then we think that we also, because we need to upskill, so we need to learn all of that. And that's where we focus not again on strategy and alignment, but on the doing and the how-tos. And by the time we figure out that, whoa, now marketing is chaotic, I don't know what I'm doing, I have too many tasks, I don't know if I have to look left or right because there's just stuff everywhere. Now it's this new thing already coming up. this is the moment where you're going to be like, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 blah. And that's what needs to change. Like if you want to run a successful side hustle project or business, my main message in the aligned marketing so with us with aligned expressions is express yourself in places that you have capacity for, that you love doing, that are in flow, and stay away from the stuff that makes you feel icky. Like you don't have to, but this mindset is not there. And it's like, I have this exercise that we do, and I did it last week with a friend of mine. And he was just like staring at the screen. I was like, are we like in a virtual freezer? Like, are we?
You good?
And he was,
He
was like, I just need to think for a second. He didn't realize that he was on 21 marketing efforts. Oof. And it's very like, it's very easily that you get like channels. So 21 marketing efforts. And this was filling up his agenda every week, his mind, his heart space. It's crazy. So this is why I love what I'm doing now, because it's not so much, oh, we're building a funnel. Like it's more about like, it's about that. And I think that there's a huge opportunity here, because you and I, Hen, we know this stuff. We talk about it every day. But a lot of people don't realize that. It's like disruption of how to build your freedom business, because I think we didn't build this freedom thing and this freedom lifestyle and business to be in a cage of to-dos. Like that's not freedom. That was a big realization for me this year as well. That's why I'm not on TikTok. Like I can't do that. I'm a really bad dancer. Maybe when I'm drunk.
I mean, sorry, I'm just laughing. I had to mute myself because there's a dog outside, but
it's never meant live.
Yeah. I will say this, people need to get out the mindset that TikTok is just about dancing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done a TikTok dance or two possibly in the past, because I was people.
It's okay, no judgment. Huh? No judgment. Oh, like, all good.
Tell me you were a dance kid without telling me. Like, hey guys, I could dance. I was gonna say though, what I like about platforms like TikTok, even with the ban, is that it creates a lot more space for people to be authentic. That's the only thing. I know that we talk about like, our clients will be like, oh, I want to go viral on TikTok. Well, that moment passed, 2-3 years ago, I would say. But one platform that I think doesn't quite get the recognition, that's why I say like it's not just an app for dancing, because it is a platform where people share a lot of information and in a very real and raw way, kind of like how we're doing with podcasting. And so it's, I guess my next question was, funny enough, going to be, I don't want it to feel like I'm going back on what I said about don't focus on the platforms, don't focus on the algorithm. But do you think there are any platforms or marketing methods that are underutilized? Like, for example, I would say that TikTok probably actually isn't used by the masses in quite the way that I would say that it could be. And the same with podcasting. But I'll talk more about that in a minute. What would it be for you?
Yeah, I love that question. I love also what you just added about TikTok, right? So I think what I also said that we have a lot more channels. Like when there's more offer, you can start niching down, right? And this is also what's happening with channels, is that some channels are really good for sending out or for creating a type of message for a type of audience, and this is that alignment, right? And I think that TikTok is a very, like, I'm not on TikTok, right? But it's a very creative platform. It's for people that can probably think a bit outside of the box, that can, like it's not your average, like this is a video with just an auto cap and that's it. Like there's more stuff happening. So it's cool, it's funny, it keeps you there. And that's also what's happening with these platforms. Like there's platforms have more specific interest groups or purposes or on how to convey messages, which is super cool. But I think what's been very underutilized, so if we look now, like before, a lot of the times it was, we have like traditionally in corporations, you have a marketing department and then you have a sales department. But in solopreneurship, like entrepreneurship, where you're a freelancer or a service provider, contractor, you basically work for yourself, perhaps with a small team. But smaller businesses, but now also larger companies, what we see is that the line between marketing and sales is like fading. So what I think is underutilized is everything that's happening between marketing and sales. because a lot of people focus so much on the marketing, but they don't focus so much on the follow up. Like, frankly enough, funny enough, sorry, I had lol,
No
not
bad
a native
moment.
speaker, guys. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a client. It was a really, really cool session. So we built a funnel, blah, blah, did everything. And I was like, okay, today we're going to talk about now people are in our funnel. It was a bit of a rush project. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, now we have all these leads sitting and I see that no one is following up with them. So let's talk about that. And then they were like, yeah, but they get an email, right? It was like, it's about relationship building. That's all about what marketing is. It's all relationship building. But that's the connection between marketing and sales. And this is what's underutilized. So I think that if you have a few marketing efforts that are in alignment, that work for you, then because you're not being online everywhere all the time, you have more space, right? And then you can focus on that deepening connection type of marketing, which is going into sales. And then what you will see is that sales becomes less salesy and more like cool conversations with people. And then you're going to have what you and I have. Oh my God, I got this amazing, I had an amazing conversation. And 3 days later, oh my God, we had a follow-up chat and we're going to work together. And it's not so much about, oh, I have a discovery call. And no, it's more flow. And this is this whole aligned expression space. So I think that is the most underutilized thing. People think, okay, I got my lead magnet done. And then they're like, or probably like, oh, okay, what else do I need to do? But it doesn't stop there. And that's why it's overwhelming, because there are channels there as well, expressions that you need to manage, that need content, that need attention, optimization, and all of that. It's a whole mouthful.
No, I think that's it. I think, again, while people are chasing all these different shiny platforms, or let's say, like Duolingo got X amount of success through TikTok or whatever, or, being unhinged, so everyone else is now trying to be unhinged, or not so much anymore, but you know what I mean? Like, everyone went through a phase, oh my God, like, this has just got so unhinged, lol. I think people are forgetting the fact that word of mouth, even in a digital age, is still the strongest form of marketing that you can have.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Just having a human to human conversation. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that client yesterday, this is to follow up with this. So I asked in one of the sessions, like, what is the strongest marketing effort, or what is the marketing effort that gave you the best results, right? And word of mouth is that for them. And then yesterday we were like, okay, we go back to that part of that session that we did in one of the signature sessions. And I refer back to that conversation because what happened was that they started talking about like, when someone was in this sort of stage, we sent this, and then we did this, and then we unpacked everything and mapped it out. And within like half an hour, we had a follow-up strategy that was in the main marketing expression of the company, which is fostering relationships, word of mouth, and human to human conversation. So in the beginning, when I was working with them, they were really focused on like broadcasting a lot on socials, but it doesn't work for them because it's not the way naturally it flows with the brand, with the positioning, and also how the people of that team are. And now that we start enhancing word of mouth, also by creating a referral program, which is all about word of mouth, we're really utilizing and banking on those existing energetic flows in marketing that already work. And then it's not because in the beginning it was, oh, we need TikTok and we need this, that. I was like, no, you need anything that is going to be that aligned expression within your capacity. And even with the follow-up messages, like actually now we got 3 sign-ups and we only started yesterday, but it's just because we're tapping into existing stuff that showed that worked and the team feels good about it. It's a very aligned expression. So they're excited about it. And that is, you feel that, it's like the energy goes into that expression and it's super cool. But I'm not going to now say, here's your strategy and then get 3 signups in 3 days, because that would be misleading, because that might not work for someone that's looking at that. So it needs more context.
Yeah, there are so many more people on different platforms. There's so many more people doing those things and so many more updates being made that it is no longer about, I can guarantee you this amount of following. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Or
I don't think it ever really did. To add on to that though, I was going to ask, do you think that there are any platforms or any marketing methods that have changed how we use them? Like, obviously, yes, there are algorithm updates, but do you think that there is any marketing methods that we are essentially beginning to use differently?
Yeah, I think marketing like expressions, it's like fashion. Like there's like certain trends and then it's very hyped and it works for a while and then it's like sexy for a while and then you have like the people that are still using it but the it's already a bit like and then at one point it just doesn't work anymore and you just change to the next thing. And I feel like we had an era where there were a lot of new technologies and tools coming into the space, right? New platforms. And I think the sort of more, I don't know if the word is aggressive, but it's a very like straightforward, a bit aggressive scarcity mindset kind of type of messaging and expressing, which is a little bit, I don't want to call any like company names because I don't mean it that way. But it's like, I would just describe it and then the people might recognize it. It's the very like red text with green and blue and like that kind. Yeah, like that kind of stuff. But this is why I don't like the word funnels because it's like, no, I'm not building a funnel. I'm building storylines and create marketing efforts around that. So this is changing. And I think that is very much in the narrative. I feel like now we are so bombarded by for so long already that what we need is human to human connection even more. So we want probably to receive more emails that are written in how the human would speak. Now also that AI, like this past year, it's been so crazy with AI. So whenever I get an email, right, that is like the epic journey of the something like that, I'm like, AI, I'm like not interested. Whereas if someone tells me something with vulnerability or their own voice and I can recognize almost their voice, like very authentic storytelling, that's what I said is a trend, right? So it comes, it goes, and then maybe there's new AI popping up or new other technology, and then this is the thing. And this is why it's a cool space. I think marketing is one of those spaces that will always be there. We always need marketing, but it's an overwhelming space because with the fast-paced industries and technologies and challenges that we have right now, it's a bit overwhelming. So I think that my message here is, like, just try to be authentic and share things in a way that sound like you and not sound like a robot or your internet hero. Even if you have swipe copy that you downloaded or bought, just have a look at that and make it in an aligned way. That doesn't mean that it's bad what you bought or that you misbought something or that it was like a cat in the bag, but you have to still tweak it to you. Because if 5,000 people buy that swipe content, like 5,000 people are going to get, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question? Sorry, I got to try.
I think that the marketing tools are always changing, but again, like fundamentals stay the same. Because for me, for example, I would say that how we utilize, for example, podcasting is very similar to how we listen to radio, like even 10 years ago, 10, 20, beyond years ago. I see just even that, because again, it's the concept's been around, audio marketing, right? It's been around for years. What, centuries, whatever. But how we then consume that is very different. So again, but it's the same form of storytelling, interviewing people. Same with like YouTube channels.
Oh my God. I'm listening right now. This is so cute. It's on Audible, but I'm listening to a course that is like a audio course, and it's like, I think this course was recorded like, I don't know, like 40, 50 years ago, and they have like a jingle, and it's like, it's so and it's so cute, and then it's like get your workbook, go to page, blah, blah, blah. And it's so cute, but that is like exactly what you just said. And this is content that is so old, but the authenticity of it, it's also not like edited so well. So the guy is like coughing and like, because they didn't like make it so complicated back then.
Yeah, attention spans were, could sustain a long like jingle. Because I remember like listening to like even audiobooks as a kid, and the intro jingle that lasted for like 1-2 minutes, like before you got
yeah.
this book read by this author, like just like, even all of that. So I guess all these kind of formats have been around in some format, or like influencer marketing, audio formats, video, yes, is still a bit newer, but photography, that's been around since like the 1800s, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
it's just kind of the technology of it has just got better at the end of the day. So that's why for me, I think that podcasting is underrated. I don't think everyone should do it, but I do think that podcasting and that kind of, I think we briefly talked about some of our calls. I think that's not being quite given the treatment that it you would have given to radios like back in the day, as it were. It costs thousands, and I believe me, I've been there. I had to ask these things before, like for projects. To get an ad, for example, on a radio station is a lot of money.
it's so much money. Oh my god! Or even still in a newspaper or something,
for like 10 to 30 seconds of the airtime. And so that's where I think that we're still kind of falling short a little bit, is that we are not quite understanding that we are still doing all these very basic forms of marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me what I'm kind of like, right, okay, no, we've got to also recognise that the space and how we utilise these platforms is also just as important and relevant as well.
Yeah. That's also why you want to have not too many channels. Like for me, when I started rebranding the agency to Align Expressions, I took, what was it? Almost a month to sort of like tune in and check in with myself in different moments. Like, what is it really that I want to use for this marketing strategy? Because it's going to be the strategy that I am going to do 100 times or execute on. So it really needs to be in alignment. So it doesn't become such a bottleneck, right? And in the beginning, I was like, no, I'm not going to start a new podcast. I will just embed it into the Digital Nomads Daily podcast, because a lot of my clients are in the remote space or digital nomad space anyways. But then I started to realize that I am taking a little bit of a nomadic like travel break, and I don't know for how long that's going to be. So I was like, I love the Digital Nomads Daily podcast, but I need a new baby. I need a new Digital Nomads Daily. Like the kid is matured, and we're now like finding other ways to make that work with that new sort of way. And then I also realized that for me, podcasting is still the way. So we're going to start a new podcast, and the format even is going to be different, because in the alignment process that I did with myself and the conversations that you and I had, I realized that we're ongoingly publishing with D&D, and that's because there are so many novices to interview. So that's great. But with this new podcast, that's not an aligned expression, because I want to have it more teamed and clustered and just like structured. So it can't, I don't know, like that feels more in alignment, because I don't want to create overwhelm. So even there, it's exactly that. It's like a podcast, but how I'm going to deliver, how I'm going to execute, how I'm going to deliver that value, how I'm going to follow up with people, interact, that part is also changing. So platform podcast, but that inside, there's so many different ways on how you can build it. And that's strategy, and that's alignment. And that's why that's what a lot of people don't think about often, because they're like, oh yeah, I need to do this. And then you do it. And then you just get a bit overwhelmed and frustrated. So it's the most important thing. And then I don't think it does. If you are aligned with your channel, your results will come. That's what I believe.
No, 100%.
Because So so that's it. I have a question for you, Han, if that's all right.
Okay, go for it.
So we have had so many conversations, right, about alignment and about rebranding and creating offers. And this is so freaking active for both of us. in like the past, like, what is it, 6-7 months, like what is one thing that you learned or an insight that came to you that was so unexpected, but so, oh my God, I needed to hear this, and I'm so grateful that this came to me? It's a big question.
It is, yeah. And I'm trying to make sure I hold on to my follow-up to you as well. That is a very, very good question.
You can ask your question and then think about it.
So do you know what came up for me first was the fact that, sorry, I then thought, I'm so bloody glad I'm media trained so I can think quick on my feet about these things. All right, Han. Basically, what came up for me first was not necessarily like because not many people say, oh, you've got an insight or whatever, like that changed like your thought process. We've had so bloody many, Nina. We've had so many. Like, we honestly should be like recording fly on the wall, because like that's just how amazing our calls are, quite frankly, like for real.
Yeah, that's pretty epic, yeah, actually.
But the thing that came up for me when you mentioned that's been honestly really groundbreaking is having that space where someone that you have created, and I'd like to think I've created for you, where we can, like you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, someone who has just opened some space for you to be vulnerable yourself. And the thing that has been most transformative for me, or like the biggest insight, I guess, is the fact that I have felt comfortable to then start rediscovering my voice and what it is. Like, that has been the biggest shift for me. And like, obviously 100% the podcast has been part of that journey. My social media is part of it. Like, there's so many different things that you could of course attribute it to, but the biggest shift that I've had just in the last 6 months alone is the fact that you created the space for me where I can be authentically myself and just be on that journey of discovery. And that's rare. I just want to say that that's really rare. So thank you.
I love that. And it's the same for me. Like it really goes both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So not particularly like a quote you can stick on a bumper sticker as such, but that honestly has given me it's given me confidence again in myself, and especially that where we're in this space of building business without a blueprint, really. Like, yeah, sure, we can draw upon like our marketing experience and all these books and all these like TED Talks and all the rest of it that are on YouTube, and of course there is so much information available on the internet now. But at the end of the day, you're still very much defining, as you said, like it's got to be in alignment of who you are as a person. And so it is very rare to find people who will create that space for you to discover and fall over and make a twat of yourself every now and again and be like, it's cool, you're doing great. Okay, it didn't work, but you got it. It's very rare.
Yeah, I love that. It's actually like it's being in being mode. That's it. Like, get yourself a bit out of the doing mode for just a few moments in the week so you can be in being mode and also receive the insights that you're receiving but maybe not acknowledging because you cannot process it because you're so focused on doing all the time. Like, there's been so many moments that I've also had like whoa, okay, this is actually something that's so funny. We have this both, right? That we would send a voice message and we're just sharing. And then it's like 3-5 minutes, whatever. And then we either send delete or we don't send it. And then there's like this whole cycle. And this on its own is so reflective. And it's really funny because we're both like then starting the final voice message with, oh my God, I've recorded this 3 times already. This is the final thought. And it's even that is like being in being mode and not focused on the how and the doing and but it's like, whoa, what is actually happening? But
again, it's we're not obviously watching WhatsApp 100% of the day, although I do love it when I'm like, oh, and Nienke Nina is like recording, like, yay. But
and then it takes half an hour because we're recording.
And vice versa. Oh my God. But again, it's that whole thing of knowing that you can be there. And we're not like, oh, for fuck's sake, just send the fucking message. It's very much a, no, I get it, because we've been doing this very much like, from the start, whether it's on the call or not. Because, we'll have a new insight, or we go off on a tangent and have to like rethink what we were doing again, or like, that wasn't worth sending. But So it's that knowing that you've got that safe space. And if you send one voice note about something and it's all good, then you send another. So yeah, that for me has been the biggest thing, and why I think it's so like amazing. Accountability partners are just like, I mean, that obviously it's been more than that for me, I think, with us, but I think just that basic concept of like, shall we start creating some accountability, which is how it all really began, has been the most.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's also like, also maybe for the listeners, it's good to know that this is also not just about like client stuff or like business, like marketing stuff. It's also moments because we're both like in the space where we get invited to work, to host workshops or do stuff like that, or where we have to consider if we travel to an event or not, or if we go to a location, or if we have problems with, I don't know, an Airbnb. And like so it's also a lot of like lifestyle stuff and like things that come to us that maybe don't give us a sensation or even a trigger, and just be able to say it and reflect on it, and also be able to then let it go. Because there's, when you run your business, there is so much stuff happening constantly, and yeah, we're only one human. Like we can't process everything in our bodies and in our minds. Like we're just one human, and it's helpful to talk with people that understand your work, that understand the challenges in your work and the sensation, so you can reflect and relate sort of quicker, and don't have to be in the struggle zone so long.
100%. It's like, again, like, although sure, like remote working has been around for a long time, the remote work industry or future work or remote lifestyle industry is still very young. And like we mentioned like before, that we're very much building these new things that don't really have blueprints. So again, having that kind of, it's kind of an allyship in a way. Just, having that kind of support that you can be like, oh, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Me neither. Like, just, it's so helpful to just navigate that space together in that way.
Yeah, it's very cool. So our main message of this episode is get an accountability partner that you can trust to understand your work and how you work and the challenges in your work.
100%. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how. Okay, yeah, this has gone on longer than I expected. I was going to just quickly ask, like, just to wrap things up, I guess. So, well, for one, was there anything else that you wanted to add to that, or because was there anything that's come up for you?
No, I mean, there's so much, but I think that there's just so much more. Like I think like my main thing is that us like doing this together and having all these chats, it also really allowed me to rebrand and to go into my alignment. Yeah, and then I guess the biggest thing, what I told you last week, right, was that I still have this narrative in my head that I am not a copywriter or storyteller because I'm not a native speaker. And you're like, huh?
What?
You have a podcast, you write content, you go to talks, like
you're a storyteller, like, yeah.
And it was just like even that. So and I'm super grateful as well, because I don't think I would have the courage and the inspiration and the motivation and the confidence and all of that to say I'm gonna rebrand and I'm gonna find a new baby. And I think all of that has led to Aligned Expressions, and that is my new baby. So super excited about that.
So just to kind of wrap things up quickly, because again, I'm being, all I can say is 100%, like, start doing accountability, find someone who you can line up with and just kind of bounce off of. I think that's just, you don't even necessarily have to do how we do it, but honestly, just having somebody to talk to however many times a week you need, things move just so much quicker than how we've kind of been told we ought to be doing things. Do it. But my follow-up question from before, and I guess a nice way to round out our conversation, because honestly, girl, I could, as always, keep talking to you for ages. Is there anything, as a podcast host, owner, however you like to label yourself, is there anything that people don't necessarily know about having a podcast that you'd like people to know?
I think people don't realize that it takes time. I think there's this sort of like, just put a podcast and that's it. But there is a process. And that process includes that either you are coming on a solo cast or you're doing interviews. And if you want to consistently create that, it's like a whole process. And I think people don't realize that this is like the sexy stuff that we see online. People show their 5 steps on how to create a podcast, but actually the creation of an actual podcast are like over 100 mini tasks. And that's why you want to be mindful about starting a platform like that. And it's long format content usually. So it's a lot. It needs descriptions. It needs like your podcast itself also needs promotion, which is part of the podcast, right? So I think that's it. But it's with all the channels. But I would say like the tip there for me is like, if you want to start a podcast, I mean, you can always ask like people who have a podcast, of course. This is also something with the agency that we would potentially help with, but only again if it's a line expression, because if you don't think that you can show up, or if it doesn't have a specific goal or a specific purpose, it's going to be hard. So it takes time and it takes strategy. It's a lot of fun, but only when you can commit to it. Like, that's it. And if you just want to have like one recording, like I wouldn't go through the process of starting a whole podcast. Like, I don't know, just like record it on your phone or whatever and drop it on a landing page as an audio file. But you don't need to have a whole podcast show for that, you know? And that's it. So
upload it to YouTube podcasts or something like that now. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, everything takes time in general.
I'll also add on to that. Again, I've sort of touched on this already, but I think also, and we kind of talked about this, funny enough, on your podcast a year ago. We briefly talked about pitching. Or was it yours or mine? Oh, we talk about all the things. But again, when you're thinking about who you're reaching out to, podcast wise as well, is the fact that podcasting is another version of press now as well. Sure, yes, it's content creation, but content creation is also new press. And it takes, as you said, it takes a lot of time and effort to create one episode. So I would advise people who are considering podcasting, again, because we have more and more people are listening to it now, more and more of us want to listen to stuff on the move. Ensure you've listened to our podcasts, for one. Like, I hope you will have listened to this episode and then gone, right, I'm going to actually have a look through both of our catalogues. Thank you very much. And take a look at what it is and have a think about what it is that you are pitching in terms of value as well. Like, what can you talk to us about? Yeah. What are you going to bring that is new and different to what we've talked about before as well?
Yeah. Plus, if you're gonna, I mean, this is what we talked about in this episode, but in general, it takes time, it takes resources, and it takes effort. So, and it's press, like you said. So if people come to me like, oh yeah, I built a 6-figure business and blah, 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 I need to be on your podcast. I'm like, you didn't give me a review. You didn't refer to any episodes. I don't know what you're going to talk about for my audience. Plus, who is going to pay for this? Like, you think that the world is free? And I mean it in a way that it's annoying if you have a platform that works, that people are not so considerate, because this can become your baby and I'm protective of it. So it's like, I think, also when you're pitching to other people, like, be mindful, because you're pitching yourself you're pitching yourself into someone's home. So you want to know what the guidelines are of that household. That's basically it. Does that make 100%. Sense?
Yeah, I was only going to also add on to that as well. Like, if you want to place an ad, you can pay for it. Like, don't be surprised if someone asks you to pay, because that's what you would do, right? Again, if you're looking at editorial versus advertorial, you'd expect to pay for an advertorial. So I think I just
maybe we should make like a separate episode about this, like how does it work to be on someone else's podcast? Because this is a big topic, and I think that this is such a big topic, and maybe a bit of it goes into a different topic. So maybe we can have like a cliffhanger here, like a teaser.
Stay tuned,
right? Because
sprinkle, and then stay tuned.
We continue.
I love it. Yeah, we have been going for a longer while than expected. So thank you for staying on, Nina, and thank you if you're still listening also to this. And make sure, yes, you listen when we do finally like have an episode around like, oh gosh, all the things around being on a podcast officially. I've just got one final little thing for you though. Obviously, normally when it comes to the remote life, typically I'd round out with home is where. Has that changed for you, do you think, in the last year?
Yeah, my home is now in Austria with my new partner.
Yeah.
I bought a couch for the first time in my life.
And if you're watching on video, you can see it. But yeah.
So yeah, home is Vienna, and I love it here. And I don't think I've ever felt this home ever in my life. So I'm really grateful for that.
I love it. It's so great to have you back on, Nina, after a year. Even though obviously we chat all the time. And yeah, obviously people have got to stay tuned for the next one that we do. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to chat, as always.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. And also, I wish you all the best with this podcast. I love it so much. So keep it flowing, Han!
Back at you, girl. Back at you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Remote Life, and thank you, Nienke Nina, for taking the time to speak with us. You can find links to her profiles below. Thank you so much again for listening, and we can't wait to remote work with you again soon.